The evening sky was painted in warm shades of orange and pink as I stood in our backyard, a glass of wine in my hand, watching my husband and his friends laugh and play. It was his birthday, and the air carried a kind of energy that I couldn't quite explain. While everyone seemed caught up in the moment, I felt a strange anticipation building inside me, like something unusual was about to happen. When the volleyball game ended, the men gathered around with flushed faces and easy smiles, their laughter still echoing. That was when Mark, my husband, caught everyone's attention with the tone of his voice. His eyes found mine, sparkling with mischief, and he announced that he had a surprise planned. The way he said it made my heart skip. For a moment, the chatter died down, and all eyes turned toward me. Mark stepped forward with that playful grin of his, whispering something to one of his friends before turning back to the group. Then, looking straight at me, he said I would be the star of the night. A mix of nerves and curiosity washed over me, because his surprises were rarely simple. They were usually wild, unpredictable, and sometimes embarrassing, but tonight felt different, charged with an intimacy I wasn't prepared for. He reached for my hand and guided me toward the center of the backyard where a small stage had been arranged. Everyone moved aside, their eyes following us, and I felt a rush of heat in my cheeks as I stood there, waiting. Soon, one of his friends returned carrying a large, gift-wrapped box. Mark urged me to open it, his voice low but commanding, carrying a weight that made my pulse race. With shaky hands, I untied the ribbon and tore away the paper. Inside was a karaoke machine. The crowd cheered and laughed, delighted by the spectacle, but Mark's eyes stayed locked on mine. There was something more in his expression, something unspoken, as if this was only the beginning of what he had planned for me that night. The evening sky was painted in shades of orange and pink as I stood in the backyard, the sound of laughter rising from my husband Mark and his friends. Something about the night felt different, charged, as if the air itself was carrying a secret. Mark's eyes sparkled with mischief when he stood before everyone, announcing he had a surprise. My heart raced, not knowing what he had in mind, but sensing it would be unlike anything he had ever done before. He called my name, pulling me into the center of attention. Mark's surprises were often elaborate, but this time I felt a deeper undercurrent in his words, a kind of intimacy hidden beneath the surface. He led me to a small stage set up in the yard, and when one of his friends handed me a large box, I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a karaoke machine. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Mark leaned close to my ear and whispered, "This is just the beginning." His words made my pulse quicken, leaving me both excited and unsettled. Soon, everyone was chanting for me to sing. I picked up the microphone and let the music guide me, each lyric carrying more weight than usual under the eyes of Mark and his friends. When the song ended, Mark took my hand and whispered that he had more planned. With a mix of nervousness and trust, I let him lead me into the house. Inside, he blindfolded me. Darkness wrapped around me, and every sound, every touch, became sharper. He told me to trust him, to lie down on the couch. The fabric felt cool against my skin as the door opened and closed, letting in footsteps, whispers, and presence I couldn't name. Then came the first kiss, gentle, testing, while Mark's voice directed softly in the background. Each touch that followed was different, unfamiliar yet guided by him. I felt hands tracing my arms, lips brushing against mine, and Mark's reassuring whispers telling me to let go. The blindfold heightened everything, from the faint cologne in the air to the warmth of bodies close by. The living room no longer felt like just our home, it was transformed into something charged, something orchestrated. Mark's voice threaded through it all, calm yet commanding, asking if I was ready for more. I nodded, surrendering to the unknown. One by one, his friends moved closer under his guidance, their touches layered over mine, their kisses overlapping in rhythm. Each moment blurred into the next, leaving me breathless, confused, but unable to resist the tide of emotions and sensations flooding over me. Then Mark's voice cut through the silence again, announcing that he was going to record the moment. The click of the camera starting up echoed in the room like a heartbeat, making everything suddenly feel more permanent. I was blindfolded, surrounded, yet somehow the center of it all. Every sensation felt amplified, every sound sharper, every touch heavier with meaning. What began as soft kisses soon evolved into something more daring. Guided by Mark, his friends became part of the experience, their movements both overwhelming and thrilling. I could feel the weight of so many eyes on me, though I couldn't see them. I was the focus of an unexpected performance, one where my husband was not only a witness but the orchestrator. The realization hit me with force. I was in my own home, surrounded by 26 men, and Mark had planned every second of it. The room seemed smaller with every breath, the air thick with anticipation and murmured encouragement. Touches layered over each other like notes in a song, building a rhythm I couldn't control, yet couldn't resist. Through it all, Mark's voice was there, steady, reassuring, telling me I was doing wonderfully. His hand found mine, a gentle squeeze anchoring me amidst the chaos. The blindfold intensified everything. I could smell the faint traces of cologne, the lingering smoke of the barbecue outside, hear the shifting of feet and the unsteady breaths around me. The world beyond that room no longer existed, there was only this moment. Then came Mark's question, soft but heavy, was I ready for more? It was both a challenge and an invitation. Despite the storm of emotions running through me, I nodded. I trusted him, even though I had no idea what was coming next. The night began to take on its own rhythm, as if choreographed, every movement both foreign and familiar at the same time. The touches grew bolder, the kisses deeper, the energy in the room more consuming. What had begun as a simple surprise unfolded into something larger, something that broke down the limits of what I thought possible. The tapestry of sensations pulled me in deeper, each new moment stretching the boundaries of who I thought I was and what I thought I could allow. Mark's voice became my anchor, the one steady thread I clung to as everything around me blurred into sensation. His encouragement, soft, commanding, coaxing, urged me to let go. His words carried me into a place that was both liberating and terrifying, a surrender I had never known before. The camera clicked and hummed in the background, recording every whisper, every touch, every sound that passed my lips. It felt less like evidence and more like a memory being preserved, a testament to a night that was rewriting what trust and intimacy meant for us. As the hours unfolded, something shifted inside me. The shock that had consumed me at first melted into a strange sense of connection. It wasn't just with Mark, it was with each of the men he had invited into this space. Their presence, their touch, their part in this secret, became layered into something personal yet shared. The thought unsettled me as much as it thrilled me. What would this mean for us? Would the bond Mark and I shared grow stronger because of this night, or had we crossed into dangerous territory where things could never return to how they once were? The questions lingered in my mind, even as I kissed another stranger, even as I let another hand explore me under Mark's guidance. Mark was always there, his voice, his touch, his reassurances whispering through the dark. "You're beautiful, Alice," he told me, and the words wrapped around me, more intimate than any kiss. Each moment became a brushstroke on a canvas that neither of us could fully see yet, painting something new between us. The boundaries of our marriage, the ones I had thought were fixed, were being erased and redrawn with every breath, every daring moment. Eventually, the rhythm slowed. One by one, his friends left, the room emptying until only Mark and I remained. The blindfold came off, and light rushed in, too bright at first. My eyes blinked against it until finally, I could see him standing there. His face was glowing with excitement, but beneath it was something deeper, something harder to name. In his hands, he held the camera, lifting it slightly as though it were proof of all we had just done. "Look at what we've created, Alice," he said softly. And as his words sank into me, I knew this night would echo in our lives far beyond its final moments. On the screen, I saw myself, blindfolded, vulnerable, and yet at the center of everything. A flood of emotions rushed through me as I watched. There was shock, of course, but also a strange surge of pride and exhilaration. The recording captured it all. Every whisper from Mark, every touch, every moment when I had let myself drift beyond the edge of what I thought I could endure. It felt like watching a performance, except it was me, exposed in the most intimate way possible, stepping across lines I had never dared to cross before. Mark's hand rested warmly on my shoulder as I watched, grounding me even as my heart raced. "You were incredible," he said softly, his tone filled with admiration. His words made it clear this wasn't only about what had just happened. It was about trust, about limits, about sharing something between us that could never be erased. I couldn't pull my eyes from the screen. There I was, surrounded by his friends, each moment captured with unflinching clarity. The reality of what we had done hit me harder than before, leaving me both trembling and breathless. Would I ever see Mark the same way again? Would he see me differently now? The questions circled in my mind, impossible to ignore. His friends, men I had once thought of only as acquaintances, had now become something else. They were etched into one of the most private and complicated nights of my life, woven into the fabric of my marriage in a way I couldn't untangle. Mark sat beside me, his presence both comforting and charged with the weight of everything we had just shared. "This isn't just about tonight," he whispered, his voice low, steady against the backdrop of the video. "It's about us. About trust. About exploring love in its truest, most expansive form." The video kept playing, showing the moments where I had surrendered completely, where I had leaned into the guidance of his voice and hands, letting go of the walls I once thought were unbreakable. A whirlwind of feelings surged inside me, confusion, fear, thrill, but also a quiet strength I hadn't known I possessed. For all my doubts, there was also a strange sense of empowerment. Mark had always been my anchor, but tonight he had also been the one leading me into a world I never thought I'd touch. Then he paused the video and turned to me, his expression serious, almost vulnerable. "Alice," he said softly, "I want you to know this wasn't just for me. It was for you, too. I wanted to show you how much you mean to me, how much I trust you, how deeply I believe in us." His words were like a balm, soothing the whirlwind of thoughts spinning in my head. When I looked into his eyes, I didn't just see the man I married, I saw a partner who dared to redefine what intimacy could mean. The night had changed us, there was no denying it. But sitting there with the memories of everything still raw and vivid, I realized it wasn't an end. It felt like a beginning. Mark had orchestrated more than a night of physical exploration, he had guided us into emotional territories I hadn't imagined crossing. Would it change how we saw each other? Absolutely. But perhaps, in this new light, we would see each other more clearly, more deeply than ever before. The trust we built, the lines we crossed, and the moments we shared were no longer fleeting, they had become a permanent chapter in the story of us. When the screen finally went dark, I leaned into him, feeling the warmth of his body and the steady rhythm of his heart. "Thank you," I whispered, not just for the night, but for the journey he had dared to take me on. The night had blurred into a tapestry of sensations, each moment bleeding into the next, but one truth shone through: our relationship had transformed into something new, something profound. As dawn broke, silence filled the house. The contrast to the night before was striking. I sat at the kitchen table, the sunlight cutting long shadows across the floor, steam rising from my untouched coffee. My thoughts still drifted to what we had done, what we had shared. Mark entered quietly, his presence comforting yet still charged with the electricity of last night. Without a word, he set a small USB drive on the table between us. "This is it," he said softly, almost reverently. My heart skipped a beat. On that little device was everything, our secret, our experiment, our proof. He slid into the chair beside me and pulled me close. His breath brushed my ear as he clicked play. The screen lit up, and there I was, blindfolded, vulnerable, the center of their attention. The room filled with familiar sounds, soft words of encouragement, the rustle of clothing, and the tension of shared desire. Every touch, every kiss had been captured in vivid detail, the camera lingering with such intimacy that even watching it later made my skin tingle. Seeing myself on the screen, I realized I wasn't just a participant in the night, I had become the orchestrator of my own desires, all while being guided by Mark's vision. The truth struck me hard. I had enjoyed it. Not just the physical thrill, but the freedom it gave me, the breaking of boundaries, and the trust that made it all possible. Mark's excitement radiated from him, his pride evident as his eyes stayed glued to the screen. And in that moment, I felt an unexpected thrill of my own. The video rolled on, showing me surrendering, giving in completely under his guidance. Each frame was a silent testimony to the depth of our connection, to the trust we had dared to test, and to the rules we had chosen to break together. Beside me, Mark's breath grew quicker, his hand tightening around mine in a quiet reassurance. "You were incredible," he whispered, his voice filled with admiration that made my heart flutter. His words were steady, but I could hear the intensity behind them. This was about trust, about pushing limits, about experiencing something together that we'll never forget. The screen showed me surrounded by his friends, each moment sharp and undeniable, each interaction captured in a way that made my pulse race. The reality of it all washed over me, what we had just done, what I had allowed, and how far we had gone. Could I ever look at Mark the same way again? The question burned inside me, tangled up with the images still flickering across the screen. His friends were no longer just casual acquaintances, they had become entangled in the fabric of our most private moments. They were part of something that could never be undone. Mark paused the video and turned to me, his expression softened with sincerity. "I want you to know, Alice," he said gently, "this was as much for you as it was for me. I needed you to see how much you mean to me, how much I trust you, how much I believe in us." His words settled over me like a balm, calming the storm of thoughts that swirled in my head. When I looked into his eyes, I didn't just see the man I had married, I saw a partner who dared to redefine what intimacy could mean. That night had changed us in ways I couldn't deny. Sitting there with the weight of the evening still fresh on my skin, I realized this wasn't the end of something, but the start of a new chapter. Mark hadn't only guided me through a night of physical exploration, he had led me into new emotional territory as well. And yes, it would change how we saw each other, but perhaps it would allow us to see more clearly, to connect more deeply than ever before. When the screen finally went dark, I leaned into him, feeling the steady rhythm of his heart beneath my cheek. "Thank you," I whispered, not just for the night itself, but for the journey he had set us on. Morning light felt different when it came, softer somehow, as though the world itself had shifted. His arm tightened around me, and in that moment I knew that whatever lay ahead, we would face it together, with open hearts and a newfound understanding of one another. The thought lingered between us, unspoken yet alive, could this be something we would explore again? The question hovered in the air like a silent promise of more to come. Days slipped into weeks, and the memory of that night didn't fade. Instead, it pulsed with life, weaving itself into our story as something vibrant and unforgettable. We talked about it often, weaving the experience into the very fabric of our intimacy. One evening over dinner, I looked at Mark, the man who had nudged me into this new world, and confessed with a trembling smile, "I loved it. I'd do it again, but next time, I want even more." His eyes lit with excitement, and in that instant, I knew we were standing on the edge of another adventure. Our relationship had evolved, trust had deepened, desire had found a new place to breathe. In the weeks that followed, a different kind of energy filled our days, as if every glance and every touch carried the weight of secret memories. We found ourselves revisiting that night again and again, not as a shadow of the past, but as a living, breathing part of who we had become together. Mark would sometimes tease me with a playful grin, asking, "What's next on our list of adventures?" I would laugh, though the truth was that anticipation always stirred inside me whenever he said it. Our conversations grew bolder with time, touching on fantasies we had never dared to give voice to before. We spoke openly about boundaries, desires, and the thrill of stepping into the unknown. It was as if that one night had unlocked a hidden door inside both of us, revealing parts of ourselves we hadn't even shared with each other. One quiet Sunday evening, we sat in our backyard as the sun melted into a blaze of oranges and pinks. Mark turned to me, mischief dancing in his eyes. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice low, "about what you said, about wanting more." My stomach fluttered at his words, a familiar blend of excitement and nervousness tangling together. "What do you have in mind?" I asked, barely above a whisper. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my ear. "How about we take this to the next level? Not just with friends, but with strangers." The suggestion sent a sharp thrill through me, the anonymity, the freedom, the sheer audacity of it. "Strangers," I repeated, letting the word linger on my tongue. It felt both foreign and intoxicating. "Yes," he confirmed, holding my gaze. "A place where no one knows us, where we can be whoever we want to be." The thought took root immediately. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure, the idea of stepping into a world where our everyday selves could be left at the door, where desire alone could guide us. Over the next few days, we researched quietly, searching for a place that matched the balance of discretion and freedom we wanted. Mark eventually found it. A private club, known for its exclusivity and the adventurous spirit of its patrons. The anticipation was almost unbearable. Every conversation was laced with what-ifs and how-fas, as if each question pulled us deeper into the thrill of possibility. When the night finally came, I dressed with care, choosing something elegant yet provocative, a silent promise of what the evening might hold. Mark's eyes lingered on me as I stood before him, and I could feel the heat in his gaze. "You look stunning," he murmured, his voice thick with pride and desire. The club's atmosphere was unlike anything I had ever experienced. The lighting was dim, intimate. Soft music drifted through the air, mixing with the low hum of voices, a chorus of anticipation that seemed to wrap itself around us the moment we stepped inside. We were welcomed into the club with subtle nods of recognition, our membership already approved in quiet discretion. The anonymity of the space gave us freedom. We mingled among strangers, observing and being observed without the weight of judgment. Through it all, Mark's hand never left me, a constant reminder of our connection in the midst of so many unknown faces. As the night deepened, our curiosity pulled us toward a private room. The door closed behind us with a soft click, and the air inside seemed alive with possibility. Mark's voice broke the silence, low and tender. "Are you ready for this, Alice?" My heart hammered as I nodded, knowing this was the next step in our journey, our next adventure together. The room was softly lit, every detail designed for comfort and intimacy. Plush furnishings surrounded us, creating a cocoon where inhibitions could be shed. Mark's touch was familiar, yet charged with a new electricity born from the unknown. He guided me with patience, his words gentle and steady. "Just let go," he whispered, his voice wrapping around me like a warm embrace. What followed unfolded with a rhythm that was both strange and deeply familiar. We found ourselves exploring connections with others, each moment a delicate dance of consent and discovery. The boundaries we had once clung to began to blur, and with every touch, with every stolen kiss, I felt the shape of our relationship changing. Through it all, Mark remained my anchor. His presence was constant, sometimes guiding, sometimes encouraging, sometimes simply a quiet reassurance that reminded me I was safe. The intimacy was unlike anything I had known before, a raw blend of vulnerability and empowerment that left me trembling and alive in equal measure. The journey Alice and Mark took was not simply about desire, but about rediscovering parts of themselves they had long kept hidden. What began as playful curiosity grew into bold exploration, testing boundaries they never thought they would cross. The anonymity of the club and the freedom it offered allowed them to see each other in a new light, not just as partners bound by routine, but as two people daring enough to embrace vulnerability together. In the end, their experience was less about the strangers they encountered and more about the bond that deepened between them. Trust, communication, and a willingness to step into the unknown gave their relationship a different kind of strength. It proved that sometimes, when couples open doors they once feared, they find not destruction but a renewed sense of closeness. For Alice, the adventure was not just an escape, it was a reminder that love, when nurtured with courage and honesty, can evolve into something even more profound. Disclaimer: this story is a work of fiction created purely for entertainment. Any resemblance to actual persons, events, or places is purely coincidental. The purpose of this narrative is to explore themes of relationships, trust, and infidelity in a storytelling format, not to encourage or promote such actions in real life. Thank you so much for following Alice and Mark's unforgettable journey. Their story reminds us that relationships can grow stronger when we dare to trust, communicate, and step beyond the ordinary. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring even more captivating infidelity stories your way. Stay tuned, there are many more to come.